Welcome to Connect to Love here on PRN-FM. I'm Lisa LaRose, and I'm joined by the incredible Michael J. Russ. I want to say welcome, Michael.
Hey, thank you. Always a pleasure to be here. You know that.
I'm so delighted because each week we have an opportunity to get together, and we always have these wonderful conversations that nurture our connection to love and oneness and human spirit. And it is so delightful because there were so many things from last week's episode about surrendering to the sweetness of life that I got reminders of all week. I don't know about you, but there were so many sweet moments in my week since we last spoke.
Yeah, I agree with you. When something like that is brought to the front of your consciousness, right, up front, a front row seat, so to speak, in your mind, it makes life easier because you can refer to that whenever, as you go through your daily, the drama and chaos that you experience out there, or as you perceive it to be, you can turn around and go, hey, no big deal. Let's just calm down. And that's been my take on this whole past week, is just to surrender to what is and just continue to practice that, surrender to what I cannot control, and just go with the flow. And I know that's kind of a cliche kind of thing, but that's really what that means. It's just going with what is and not getting upset by it or judging it, thinking it's right or wrong. My relationships run a little bit more smoothly because I can have a tendency to get intense, when it comes to living with someone. And my girlfriend happens to be an empath, so she can pick up on, just the slightest hint of dysfunctional energy. So it reminds me it's a reminder to keep my energy flowing and in a positive to upward frequency direction, to an average to up, instead of going average to down in lower frequencies. Recognizing that, hey, I'm in control of this. I'm in control of this, what's unfolding. Remembering that,
right.
Constantly that it's me. And as I said, I listened to the interview with Robert Grant again today, and pulling more insights out of that and understanding. We spoke about it a little bit last week, but I mean, we are the creators of our experience, and it's here for us. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. That's the thing that was my mantra this week. This isn't happening to me, this is happening for me. So let's figure out, why is this happening for me? What am I supposed to derive from this? That's the only time I step into the why. The why is to examine, to focus it in a positive way. Not why did this happen, why is this happening to me, but why, what positive lesson, exhumed from this. That's really where I'm at. So that was a great conversation. Surrender, really.
No, truly. And I had so many messages that came through that echoed what we spoke about, including one that I wrote down, and they said it's not about fighting your way through life. It's about being in balance and allowing the magic of the alignment to move through you to create the changes you seek in the world by seeking them in self, which is truly about love and unity and getting into that higher state of consciousness. And here it is. And so that's what I was practicing. It's interesting you mentioned a mantra because I was sort of saying, okay, breathe in clarity, breathe out control. Just breathe it in and allow and allow and allow and allow whatever it was to come through. And that's really, for me anyway, the way that my life works so magically. It really does. And then the right people show up, and hence the topic for our show today was one of those gifts that came through that letting go of control. So, yeah, I had a good friend of mine who runs expos and things like that reach out to me and ask if I would be interested in participating in an inspirational expo that he's organizing for the fall. And thought, I don't really do that stuff anymore. I used to do that. I asked if I wanted to give a talk, and I said, you know what? I'll show up. I'm going to show up. I don't know. It's showing up at my doorstep, and there's a reason for it. And I had an opportunity to meet with him on Monday. And as you and I both know, Michael, we are constant students of the universe, and oftentimes we find out about these amazing people that walked on the planet that we don't know about. And when I was speaking with my friend Clyde, he started to tell me about the kind of guy that changed people's lives. And that particular person was William Glaser. And I had never heard of William Glaser. And I reached out to Michael and I said, have you ever heard of this before? And this particular gentleman, William Glaser, developed an idea which he called choice theory, which was something that I had never heard about. It was really about the power of choice, owning your own life and freeing yourself up, and what sets the stage for that. So Michael and I had an opportunity to sort of delve into it, and it's a new topic to both of us, but I absolutely love it, and I'm so excited to learn about choice theory because it echoes so much of what Michael and I speak to each week about owning your own life and honoring others, and as well as connection versus disconnection. And when I started to look at what choice theory is, I discovered there were some core tenets that really spoke to me. So first of all, there's the 5 basic human needs. There is the idea of a quality world where we have this personal picture album of what we want. Total behavior, which is acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. And choice versus control. And according to the concepts of choice theory, all behavior is purposeful. Everything you do is your best attempt to get what you want. And at that point in time, with the information available to you, getting what you want ultimately satisfies one of those 5 basic needs, which provides all the motivation for all that you do. And so we thought it would be fun to sort of share our thoughts on it and then perhaps follow up and have Clyde, because Clyde had an opportunity to work with William during his lifetime. And he said that that was the one person that was able to change his life. And I love it. And so as I started to delve into choice theory, I realized that it really is a pathway to not only empowerment, but freedom and also compassionate connection. I think connection to yourself as well as connection to others. It was so interesting, I think, that when you start to delve into something that's new and then you start to look at it, one of the things that Clyde shared with me that really intrigued me about choice theory was Dr. William Glaser's, and he was an MD, was his idea of there being 5 basic human needs. And they were survival, love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. And that there were different ways that we could get those needs met. It was all about choice versus control and understanding the difference. And then to take responsibility for your choices. And maybe that's a fun place to start, Michael. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I know you've just sort of delved into it. It's something new, and I'm excited to explore it because it's something that both you and I are learning about, but really resonates with both of us.
Yeah, I loved it. So much of it echoes. I think you were absolutely correct when you were talking about echoing. A lot of what he's talking about echoes the last 40 years of my life, and learned in different ways. Messages coming in from different directions, and the message was said in different ways. However, Glaser was able to put this together and into a cohesively in a teachable way. Now, there's something I thought about while you were just talking, and it's something I'd love our audience here on PRNFN to know, that a lot of times what we do, as human beings, we have a tendency to come across someone who has a message that resonates with us. And what we tend to do then is to begin to revere that person and to give our power over to that person, and by way of seeing them as being greater than we are. And I've come to understand that when we do that, we are giving away our sovereignty. We are then now making ourselves beholden to what someone else says and what someone else does. This is so prevalent right now on the entire internet, the social media influencers, and people are highly susceptible. And when you become susceptible, what you're doing is you're giving away your power. You're giving away your sovereignty. You're giving away your sense of your personal control. And something that you had said that was so poignant before we got online is that choice theory is a shift from external control to personal responsibility. That when we look at the 5 different aspects of choice theory, they might seem so simple. However, I can tell you that when you're waking up in the morning and you're facing another day, some of these things can be elusive to people, many of our listeners perhaps. They can be very elusive. Love and belonging could be, with regard to just breaking that down, this is connect to love. So I'll start with that one. It's about connection with friends. It's connection with friends, family, intimate partners, co-workers, and pets. It's connection. Right? Love and belonging, being able to love yourself and have that love radiate from you and then back to you, because you're a mirror of what you put out. A mirror's back to you. And for many people, they perceive themselves, and I come across this, they perceive themselves as not having love in their life. And when I ask them about loving themselves, they discount it. They discount it as being what, because they're so ingrained in from the information and the movies, television shows, and everything else, that love is this thing that somebody gives to you, that you don't give it to yourself, or that when they give it to you, then now you know you have it. And then what we do then is when we're doing that, we're not taking responsibility for how we feel. And then when if that person goes away, we feel dejected, and because we never really loved ourselves, we literally bled off the energy of their love, right? That whatever that it was to them, whatever it meant to them, and because this is literally what we get taught, is that if you did something wrong when the love isn't there anymore, and what we've said all along is that, hey, love is something you generate and cultivate from inside. It's within, and then you get this so's within, so's without situation where you're loving yourself, you're caring for yourself, you're creating connections with people, and it's not a romantic love. It's from your perspective, it's just non-judgment. It's no right or wrong. It's just there and you're connecting with them. And it's interesting because when somebody has a pet, right, and we start applying this right and wrong to a pet, then we kind of mess up the relationship, which is kind of what happens, because pets they give it love unconditionally. And what many pet owners do is they condition their love based on the dog or cat or whatever, the bird or whatever the animal's behavior is, right? You agree with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So that kind of happens. So the idea of this of making choices and making yourself responsibility, being responsible for the choices that you're making in life, just following that one aspect of choice theory, which I guess the foundation of it, from which there are many branches, that can change your life in a heartbeat. You start taking responsibility for your choice to or not to love yourself. That changes everything, changes the game completely. And the idea of anybody who comes to me and they say, I'm lonely, I'm tired of being lonely, I'm tired of being alone, I look at them and say, have you thought about why you're alone? Maybe it's an opportunity, what life is telling you is an opportunity to build greater love within yourself, give more love to yourself, so that you can begin to attract love into your life from friends and family and from intimate partners, whatever it is, that you can start to attract love. And
right,
basically, that is off the radar for many people. It's just off the radar for them when I start talking like in those terms. And again, the one thing that comes up is the need to fight the truth, to fight what's being said. When you recognize that you haven't been giving yourself, somebody else asks you that question and makes you think about that sort of thing. The idea of judging the other person is wrong. No, I give myself lots of love. It's that whole fight and struggle thing. It kind of sparks that. So I love this. I love this idea, this program that he put together. It's so well done.
It was developed in 1965. So this is, and that's what I find so fascinating. I mean, this is 60 years old. And he said that it was a universal system for empowering individuals and improving relationships. And at the core of it was about releasing the illusion of control over others and fully owning our own choices and reclaiming our personal power. And what have we been speaking about? Here we are 60 years later, speaking about reclaiming your personal power. And he spoke about and this is what I was just so excited to learn about it, because I'm thinking, I've never heard of this. I've never heard of it. Not to say that I hear of everything, but I mean, if it's been around for 60 years, maybe you hear it being spoken of. But when he talked about the idea of internal versus external control, which is what you were speaking of, moving from I'll be happy when this other person changes to I choose how I'm going to respond, which is taking radical responsibility for your actions, my thoughts, my emotional response, what I'm doing. When I let go of that control, which goes along with what we were speaking about, letting go of control, surrendering any expectations I might have of the other person, is actually how we strengthen that connection. So in a relationship, even in a relationship, whether it be a friendship or somebody that you're meeting in a business sense, which is what I did this week. I was introduced to a mechanic, and everybody told me that he's difficult and it's going to be challenging and this and that, and I just let it go. I just said, that's not going to be my experience. I'm going to shift how I'm going to approach this. And so it was, I called him up and I'm like, hi, I was referred to you by Justin, and he said you're the best. And so it opened up a new doorway, and it empowered him and it empowered me. And my empowering him to make his choice of how he was going to respond. And however he responded to me, I was okay with it. It didn't matter if he would have not been friendly to me at all. But he was. He had a nice big smile, and I think that there was mutual respect at that point.
The lesson here that I'm pulling out of this is that the energy we bring to connection matters. The energy
Truly.
And frequency that we bring to connection. And not what somebody else says, but what you bring. And so one person's experience, that's like people telling me, that restaurant, it was terrible, the service was terrible, and, the food was, well, you know what? I'm not privy to the perceptions they had or the expectations they had when they walked through the door. I want to come in with a fresh set of eyes, no expectations and no perceptions. I just want to say, I want to sit down and have my own experience. I don't want to live vicariously through somebody else's experience, because it is my. So my energy in terms of connection is different. That person could have come in there after having a bad day, and their perception, if they were also a person who likes to control their outer world, their perceptions were just completely out of whack with what they experienced in that particular in that restaurant. And that's something I always remember, and it invariably, I always have a great time, and I wonder, and I go back and tell the person, "No, it was fantastic." He said, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah." And I don't.
Maybe you should revisit it.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
Check it out again. Come in with a whole different mindset, dude. I mean, that really is what happens. And believe it or not, that happens in individual relationships. We have somebody else. It's like somebody said the other day, and I've said this all along. Don't let somebody else color your world. Don't let somebody else color your world. You pick your own colors. Don't let somebody throw black on your beautiful bright orange and blue greens and royal blues and cobalts. No, don't let somebody do that. It's your life. You can paint it anywhere you want. Don't let somebody throw some some ugly painting or some dark colors on your own painting. Don't let somebody come to color your world. It's what we have a tendency to do that because, in my view, we doubt ourselves. We have fears. We have it's how we feel about ourselves. I will tell somebody in a minute, heartbeat, I love myself. And I love my life. And I don't care if the Titanic is sinking. I love myself and I love my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And my experience of that is going to be quite different than somebody who is coming at it from a perspective of the sky is falling, I can't stand myself. Why did I do that? Why did I even get on this thing? Why did I get on this sinking ship to begin with? Why did I choose to buy this ticket? All that doesn't matter. Nothing matters except for how you're dealing with this present moment, what energy you're bringing to it. And,
right.
Yeah.
And you keep I was going to say, you keep your vibration high, Michael. And that's a choice. And I do the same thing. And Bashar always said that your circumstances don't matter. It's only the state of being that matters. And so when you choose that vibration in every moment, it matches that idea of an intentional choice. And you make that choice to enjoy. You're going into that restaurant to enjoy that dinner. And if there is a little glitch, you're not reacting. So that non-reactivity is helping you stay in alignment with that chosen frequency and your belief that you are going to have a good dinner. And I would say probably 9 times out of 10, your dinners are outstanding.
Yeah.
And you've got a wine to match.
Well, here's something interesting. Yeah, it's so true. And the other thing about that is, because I'm bringing that high vibration in there, I'm not looking to create an experience where there's discomfort or a disjointed experience. I'm not looking for that. If something comes out and it's not exactly right, I'm not looking to write a bad review about it or trash somebody. I just simply let the waiter know, and please let the chef know this and that. Not doing it to try and get something off my bill. Generally, I'll wait until the end of the meal when it's over and I've actually paid the bill, and I'll say, here, I just want to bring it over a second, or I'll bring the manager over. I want you to be better. I know you're really committed to what you're doing, and the chef is really committed. I just want to give you a couple of, a little feedback that can help you for the next customer. And they appreciate that, right? They're like, yeah, I'm happy that you told me. I don't want, because a lot of people, they won't say that there was something that was a bit off, something that they didn't particularly like, but you're not there to punish people. You're doing it out of love for them and love for the art that they're looking to create. And nobody's perfect. This isn't about perfection. It's about loving what you do and paying attention. And sometimes it's just that just to carry on the same example, sometimes it's the chef has given orders to somebody and that person just needs a little attention in what they're doing. And they don't know it unless you tell them, because they're running a restaurant. So you can go back in there the next time, and I guarantee you, when I go back into that restaurant the next time, there's a boatload of appreciation, there's a boatload of love, there's a lot of care and a lot of understanding, because you're not there to cast a negative shadow on the place and to disparage somebody else's art. You're there to, and they love it. And that's the love we bring to the table, transforming.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. Transforming.
And that's one of the things that I'm just delving into this. I'm really excited to delve into it in a deeper sense, but in those core facets of choice theory, he talked about a quality world, which is a mental picture album of what we want to satisfy our needs. So my idea of what my quality world is different than what yours is, or if I'm in a relationship with somebody. And so when he said, when I really love this, because he said, when you understand your quality world, it helps us understand our choices and our motivations. And I thought, wow, really, what's important to me in that quality world? and in that same thing, as you said, with loving and belonging, connection, acceptance, intimacy, power, achievement, confidence, recognition, freedom, choice, autonomy, independence. Freedom is really important to me. Fun, enjoyment, pleasure, laughter, and then survival, basic needs of food, shelter, and safety. But when I think about, okay, of those 5 things, in my quality world, what is most important? Probably freedom and choice. Choice is a big one for me. I mean, love and belonging is very important as well, connection. But I can truly see that. I like to have the freedom. If I want to go and connect with somebody, I'll just go do it, whether it be jumping on a plane or not.
Listen, I love your choice of freedom, and I think that the average person, if would choose freedom, and when experiencing that freedom, joy and excitement and passion would be the natural byproducts of having that ability, right? I mean, there's a movement I've been reading about for years amongst some of the younger generation about, not getting a mortgage, living in it, saving, buying a tiny home, or converting a bus, the school bus, or some other vehicle into a home that gives them the freedom to go anywhere they want to go, right? Mm-hmm. And in doing so, being able to experience life and create connections all over the country. And I know somebody who actually rented a motorhome in New Zealand. Yeah, they rented a motorhome, this camper van in New Zealand. And for 2 weeks, they traveled around to all the campsites, north, south, east, and west. So they saw New Zealand by camper. And
how fascinating.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Think about the freedom for a second. The freedom you have to be away from one particular location at a resort or this or that, and the ability to dive into the local culture and vernacular in a way that other people who come there wouldn't be able to, right? You don't have to worry about spending zillions of dollars on 5-star hotels, and your experience is so much richer. Right, and I know people have done this in Europe as well, and that's what my sister's in Europe right now. She's in Spain and Italy. She's in Spain right now. We'll be going to Italy pretty soon. But when they got off the plane, the first place they went was to a pottery class.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah, in Barcelona, they went to a pottery class, and it was really kind of cool.
Great.
Pottery class. I never thought about that. And they made things. They just had a paella class, cooking paella yesterday, right? And they learned how to make paella. And they're making friends, and they're having experiences based on things that they love, and people who love what they're doing and engaging with them. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm like, she's my hero, so to speak, from that. She's there with my nephew who's going to medical school this fall for the next, 10, 15, 20 years he'll be in medical school, but so it's like his last hurrah before he really gets deep and busy, and
great
into his profession to help people, and be of service. But here's the thing: with anything, and I come across this with travelers all the time, when they bring their heavy list of expectations and perceptions with them, and it totally colors their experience differently than what they thought. And because it was different than what they perceived and expected, the experience wasn't up to their standards. And I'm like, what did you do this for? The beauty is the left instead of the right. When you had your map says to go right, but you go left. And the thing you discovered going left is the thing that you were supposed to discover. And you just have to flow with it. You have to, again, based on last week, surrender to that direction and all the things that manifest as a result of that choice, and I got to agree with you. People accept and Glasser, it was William Glasser. The thing that people have the most challenge with in life is actually accepting the responsibility, taking responsibility, as you say, radical responsibility for absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman who's now passed on. He was a multimillionaire down in Central Florida, that wrote this book called Wealth Without Risk, and took them all over the place. And I had the opportunity to sit for a 6-7 hour seminar, a 2-day seminar with him, 6 hours a day, and in Oakland, California. And I remember this like absolutely. And I thought I was coming there for one reason, but what I discovered when I got there was that he was the first one to actually communicate the value of self-talk. It was one of his pillars about how you talk to yourself and what you say. Those words matter when it comes to you moving forward, being happy, being joyful, being passionate, because we have a tendency to use our self-talk, which is a reflection of our expectations and our perceptions. It just reinforces them. And his whole idea was simply, look, you love yourself, you use language, never say anything bad about yourself. It's cruel, it's inhumane to speak badly of yourself. It has nothing to do with love. And he was the first one to talk about taking ultimate radical responsibility for everything that happened. And he gave examples down to the absolute minutia, the littlest thing. Take responsibility. Take responsibility for when you're a part of something in the universe, right? You have a responsibility for being part of it, the experience. Mm-hmm. You're taking responsibility for that. And same thing with forgiveness. You are forgiving yourself for your part in it, right? People get all hung up on a right and wrong. There's no duality here. It's simply you have a part in this cosmic event that occurred, even though we've been taught to delineate right from wrong. I'm not taking responsibility for that because I had nothing to do with it. Wrong. You were there, weren't you? Right? Take responsibility for that. And it makes life so much easier. It makes loving yourself so much easier because the person we really don't want to take responsibility for is ourselves. And I see it in golf all the time. It's the one main reason people quit the game. Seriously, or any game.
I see it in a lot of aspects, not just golf, Michael. I see it reflected in life all the time. It is, and that's what I love about learning about William Glaser's theory, because it was about choice versus control. And so what I really love about it, because it emphasized, when you emphasize choice, then we can only control our own behavior. I cannot control what you're going to say on the show. We do the show completely unscripted. I don't know where this is going to go, but I can choose a direction for myself. When we start the show, we just allow it to flow however it flows. But I don't control you. I don't say, okay, here, Michael, here's the script, because that ultimately we wouldn't have an authentic show. It would probably lead to conflict between us, and both of us wouldn't be happy. And we ended this show last week. We were both so ecstatic, like we were just in ecstatic motion. I know it continued for me throughout the weekend. Yeah. And I think that when we really understand that we choose our behavior and we take responsibility for our actions, and not only our actions but the consequences. So if I do something that is not in alignment with my highest truth and it boomerangs back at me, those are my consequences. And I think also the thing that I felt was so poignant was when he said, when we withdraw from attempts to control others, it frees us to focus on our own growth and well-being. Wow. Wow.
Use up space, baby.
What? I'm not worrying about you. Guess what? I can pick up a self-help book. I can take a pottery class. I can take a class to learn paella. I can take a yoga class. I can do whatever it is that makes me feel good, that helps me grow, that fosters my well-being. And that's how then you become a mirror for others, because as you said, your sister's inspiring you. So she's actually empowering you to make your choices that foster a healthier, more successful Michael J. Russ. Because it's like, oh, that's inspiring. Maybe I'll try this. Or maybe I'll expand into that. Or on my next trip, you and your girlfriend will choose to take up something that you never thought to take up before, because of that inspiration, because she decided to foster her own growth. and also your nephew's growth. I love it. I love it. It's just great.
And there's certain of us that that are very deep into that. I tell people when they ask me, well, my significant other, the person I'm with, I partner with in life, isn't into doing what I'm doing. And I say, well, what's that matter? What matters is whether or not they give you the space to be that person. And that's really what you're looking for. You're not looking to judge them as not wanting to or wanting to. And you're not going to force your ideas and your interests onto someone else. They have their own, and they need to discover what those are. They're talented. They have gifts. They have skills, and that they came into this life with. And whether they choose to use them to bring joy and passion, excitement, and fun into their life is completely and totally up to them. Now, there's a lot of thought viruses running underneath the radar there that's likely, that we all have to ferret out and get rid of. But, I started to say at the beginning of the show here about control is that, for those listening here on PRFM and in our podcast, I assert all the time that we lay out an unscripted smorgasbord of thoughts and ideas and themes, right? The simple theme. That's what we do here. We lay it out right on the table, and it's for you to not accept it all. If it works for you, it's accepting it all. That's great. If it doesn't, you pick what works for you in your life, right now. Whatever message, whatever portion of this podcast, whatever what we say, works with you and actually it can be used by you to like a wrench to fix something in your life, or to enhance the joy and passion you have, or to drop a bad habit, or to accelerate your own growth, whatever. It's up to you to choose whatever that is. And if there's nothing, then that's okay too. But we're not, your gurus or anything else. We're here just laying out our own personal experiences and some wisdom that we have used for decades, and to me, it's just fun. I just love this. The fact that
I do too.
We look forward to this every week to sitting down for this hour, and contrary to what a lot of people do who have producers who come up with topics and things of that nature and all that, we are our own chief cooks and bottle washers, okay? We do it all, right? We create the menu, we cook the food, we wash the dishes afterwards, right? We turn out the lights, done. And so to me, that's fun. That's absolutely fun.
It truly
is. Freedom.
Absolutely.
Freedom. It's freedom in the
true
definition
truly.
of the word.
It is. And, Michael, I have to say that, and I was thinking about this because one of the thought leaders that I really loved, I followed Wayne Dyer. I loved him immensely, and had an opportunity to see Don Miguel Ruiz speak, who wrote the book, The Four Agreements. And when I was thinking about, when I was really going through Glacier's work, and Don Miguel wrote the Four Agreements based on Toltec wisdom, which was even older than 1965. I don't know how many years it dates back.
Yeah.
But one of the agreements that it really just spoke to me at my heart was being impeccable with your word. And then I started thinking about how choice theory really directly relates to being impeccable with your word, that it's the thinking and acting components of our behavior. We choose the words we speak. We take responsibility for those choices and how the impact of our words have on not only ourselves but others. So when we blame or criticize or gossip, it is not really in alignment with our highest purpose. And I think that I have given away so many copies of the book, The Four Agreements, and I'm mastery of the relationship and all of his work. But it was about connection, and being impeccable with your word meant speaking with integrity and truth and aligning with whatever it was that was your truth. And I think that when we are impeccable, and that's where the freedom and of the choice comes with me, I'm respecting myself and my own needs, and it was so amazing to me. Like, I'm thinking to myself, look at this. This is this connection. And I just found out about it on Monday. And thank you for allowing us to play with this, because both Michael and I, this is something that's relatively new to both of us. But I think it really provides such an elegant framework for understanding, like, why we behave the way we do, why we're driven by basic needs, and that it's only our behavior that we can control. I can control my word. I can be impeccable with my word. So I really love that. I really did. Yeah. I think it's a wonderful connection.
I really think, I agree with you 110%. The thing I want to add to that is that, we've been doing this a very long time, and we're familiar with absolutely everything that's being said here. What's different and what's unique, and what I think will resonate with our listeners is the package that it comes in. The packaging is different. And the beautiful thing about it is that there's no original thoughts in the world, and I think let's just say that right up front. We think that we have an original thought, but generally, it was Toltec. It was from Atlantis. It was somewhere else. Okay, Roman Empire. Somebody else has had that thought, right? No original thoughts out there. And the beauty of it is that we have this ability to see someone else's packaging and be reminded in a different way of something we already know, something we may under the radar be doing already because we read the 4 agreements or this or that. Taking responsibility for your inner conversation and your outer conversation, every word that comes out of your mouth, very important. It's very important to make sure that those words are loving, that they have empathy and compassion, and that they even have forgiveness attached, that they have an ultimate, you're saying them being responsible for those words, taking responsibility for those words. Because a lot of people say, I didn't say that, or I said this, and you might have said it in order to exert some sort of control over someone. That, of course, is not loving. You and I both know that. It's attempting to exert control. And there's so many layers to this, to take responsibility, so many different layers. And the key for me, is just being responsible for what I'm saying and making sure that what I'm saying is what I mean, not, and from a perspective of love, and that whatever I did say, I'll say it again because I thought about it that much, but it was meant was through love and compassion and empathy. That's the nature of what I'm saying, the language I'm speaking. And to that extent, I have to remind, I'm still growing up here. I have to remember to not use the word you when I'm referring to someone, girlfriend, sister, or whatever. When you say you this, you that, framing things that way creates this whole emotional wall of people focus on the word you, like you said to me this thing, instead of putting it another way and talking about feelings.
Right.
Although I got to tell you that even that can trip you up, because you're not supposed to allow something that someone says or does to impact your inner world. So you see there's an interesting conundrum here that we find ourselves in, that no one outside of you, no thing outside of you has the ability to impact the way you experience life unless you allow it to be so.
Right.
Very powerful.
Do you recall, Michael, in the 4 agreements he wrote about, and I maybe it was in the Master of Relationship, but it was, I am responsible for my own happiness. And And when I found that book after I ended a relationship, and when I began a new relationship, it was very frustrating for the person I was with, because they said, well, I want to do this, I want to make you happy. And I'm like, no, I'm responsible for my own happiness. And I just kept affirming that. And I said, you're responsible for your own happiness as well. And I think that you can take that to say, I'm responsible for my own energy, I'm responsible for my own actions, I choose peace, I choose love, and I trust in the moment. And when I was starting to go through this choice theory, I thought to myself, there's a lot of things I could journal about. And I always try to look at my stuff, and I know you do too. So it's like, what are the choices that I'm currently making in my life that align with who I truly want to be? There's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? If I am responsible for my own happiness, where am I giving away my power? How do I take that back?
Right.
Where in my life am I trying to control others? How can I release whatever blame there is and reclaim my inner peace? And it's like doing that reflection and then affirming that I am responsible for my own happiness. I'm responsible for my own energy. I am love. I am whatever it is that you want to bring in. And then you pause for a moment, you reflect, and if there's a meditation you enjoy, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's what self-reflection, and that's how we grow. And that's how, for me, that's fun. I love learning. I love trying to make myself a better person than I was yesterday, and continue to do that inner work. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's wonderfully said, by the way. If I could piggyback on that with what Michael Glasser was saying, is that the 7 disconnecting habits happen to be, and I'll tell you what they are in a second, but in my view, they happen to be telltale signs of giving away your power. And they are complaining, blaming, criticizing, nagging, punishing, threatening, rewarding to control, or bribing people, to do what you want, to behave a certain way. Those things, those 7 things, are indicative of someone who is definitely giving away their power. It's their victimization. Different examples of victimization, victim thinking, victim consciousness, and it's very pervasive in our world today.
Yeah, and he said that instead of having these disconnecting habits, to replace them with the connecting habits. So would you mind reading those? Do you have those in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Listening, respecting, accepting, encouraging, supporting, trusting, negotiating differences. These are 7 habits that will, in my view, and I'm sure it's the reason why he wrote them down, created them, to assure that you are maintaining control of yourself, which is the only thing you do control, right? And that you're, to me, they're aligned with love too, very much aligned.
Absolutely.
And that's really the most important thing. Love is a thread that connects everything and everyone in the universe. And I don't know, listening, respecting, accepting, encouraging, supporting, trusting, and negotiating differences falls in line with that. There's no way that these are also aligned with sovereignty. Being the sovereign ruler over your own mind, body, and spirit. You need these things. And it was interesting because I was watching a movie last night, and I'd seen it before, but it was a long time ago. And the daughter in the movie was basically engaging in the 7 disconnecting habits. And she was trying to control her mother, and she was trying to control her boss, and she was not listening to even what her best friend or her mother were telling her. Her best friend was somebody who cared very much for her, but she was so self-absorbed in her own chaos and drama of her own life and trying to control other people, the people around her, that she wasn't paying any attention to what was being said by her friend, who was also in her own little world, having her own little dramas. And you have to be, when you have connections with people, you must listen, because they're going to, what they say is going to help you understand where they're coming from. It's going to help you understand how you connect with them, how you can connect with them at their core. They'll tell you. They'll tell you what's going on. You can use these to identify somebody who's out of control, someone who has no control and no responsibility for their life. And that's not something that you can actually make happen. I always say this thing. You can't control somebody else, but you can be an influencer, and you can be an example of what they can be. And that is by being, you can help other people understand what love is by demonstrating love yourself, loving of yourself, making choices, and I call them preferences, by the way. Choices are the overriding thing, but when I speak to myself about I'll either say I choose to do this or I prefer to do that instead. Because with somebody who cares about you and loves you says, hey, let's go to this thing, and you go, nah, don't want to do that. You just shut it down, right? And instead of doing that, you can say, how about doing this instead? It doesn't bring up the wall of, oh, they're rejecting me, right? They're rejecting my idea, because people get sensitive about that because of the fact that it's all about their own level of self-love and their own level of taking responsibility for what they say. There's a lot of little nuance, like I said, lots of little layers here. So I prefer to use preferences. I'll say, I want to go to the park. I prefer to go to this place instead. You want to go to this thing, this particular event? I prefer. Why not go to this thing? What do you think about that thing? Let them make a choice. What do you think about that thing instead? Instead, and it makes conversation one where both people can participate. But I'm listening to what's going on in the meantime. It's awesome. Yeah. I love these delineations here with regard to the differences between connecting and disconnecting. It's a great way.
I do too.
Of looking at them. Great way of looking at them.
And he said, and again, and I'm just delving into it, so I'm really excited to explore this a little bit more. In addition to the quality world, he talked about total behavior, that all behavior is total behavior, and it was 4 inseparable components, which is what you were speaking about, Michael: acting, thinking, feeling, and then physiology. And he said we have direct control over our actions and our thinking, acting and thinking. And that influences our feelings and the physiology, which is so interesting because, sometimes your feelings get hurt. Somebody isn't meaning intentionally to hurt your feelings, but they say something that might be insensitive. But it's our choice of how we respond. Are we going to respond with anger? Are we going to respond? Are we going to go like a 3-year-old child and go pout in the corner and stomp away, or not to call them anymore? Are we going to choose to have a conversation and say, you might not realize it, but that really hurt my feelings, which is really the way that it should be handled, in my opinion.
Except for the fact that, as I just said, the conundrum with this whole thing is, because I catch myself doing this, okay, even in my own relationships. My personal relationship with my girlfriend of 21 and a half years now. I mean, it's like, they say something, and we have to go back to the point where how we hear what they say is a choice. How we choose to perceive what they say. That's the first choice you make, and that's going to determine everything. That's going to determine what you think after that, the feelings you have after that, and the responses you have after that. But that perception is such. And I would prefer to go back to go back to the absolute foundation, the original statement, whatever was made. And I question myself and say, wait a minute, hold on a second. I'm not going to know where that statement came from. I only know I have the choice as to how to respond to that statement. Right. And so, in many cases, the statement may not deserve a response. I know this is kind of radical, but I put this in my book, Zero Adversity. There are many things that you experience that don't require a response. In my view, we respond to way too many things because we feel we need to. And a response, in many cases, for most people, involves a judgment of some kind. The judgment of, oh, that was good, that was bad. That was a bad statement. That's your perception, so that hurt me. I need to tell you now that hurt my feelings, right? Instead of saying, that person said that thing, it's just the thing they said. How I take it, how I perceive it, it's up to me. So I'm the kind of person that wouldn't necessarily, I've stopped saying it. I used to in the past believe, and I'm just honest because this is a whole evolving, life is an evolving event. I used to say, I simply want to make you aware that what you said made me feel this way, right? That was the way that somebody told me that's the way it should be said decades ago, right? Are you aware that how that statement made me feel, or how it might make somebody else feel, or that thing you said to them? Are you aware of how it made them feel? It's kind of like making them aware of the fact that what they said hurt somebody else's feelings. Well, what I say to somebody may not hurt, to one person, may hurt the feelings of another. You see, because I'm not privy to their past wisdom, what they experienced in the past, and literally somebody else might have, I might be saying something that triggered, right, some other event in their life. We don't know that. I'm never going to understand it. So I've gone back to just focusing on my own, what I have control over myself, and that's initially my perceptions. And here's the interesting thing. I looked through this book, and there is a rather nice size section on perceptions. I didn't get to read it yet, but I'm looking forward to going through it. But perceptions are a huge part of his choice theory program.
Yeah. And I think, Michael, what I think is so amazing, and I know you try to do this in all that you do, and I do too, and this is what I really love about choice theory and action, is that by empowering others to make their own choices, we're growing healthier, more respectful relationships. So I know in your relationship and in all the relationships that I have, I prefer to reduce conflict. I prefer not to live in conflict. I don't believe that we need to do that. I prefer to increase intimacy and connection, and also to foster a greater sense of fulfillment in whatever relationships I have, no matter it be personal or just connecting with people at a grocery store. That I feel a sense of fulfillment if I can make somebody's day just a little bit better, and I can share kindness with them, and that's my choice. Yep. And again, I go back to Wayne Dyer, who always said you have everything you need for complete peace and total happiness right now. He didn't say here's a little piece here, here's a little bit there. No, you have everything you need for complete peace and total happiness right now.
I love it.
And that's empowering. That's very empowering. I'm like, I'll own that.
Yeah, totally aligned with sovereignty, and I can't put it any more clearly. That's just wonderfully said. We have everything you need right now, everything, and the only thing, if we feel we lack, that's a whole perception as it is that drives a whole another train, right? That's what that does. We got about a minute left. I'd love for you to finish this up because you're the one who found this choice theory, this William Glazer's choice theory.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that we can have Clyde on the show because he had personal experiences with William Glazer, and unfortunately he had a conflict and wasn't able to join us today. But we had lots of fun with it, even without him. And I'd like you to know that there is a site. I will put it in the comments for choice theory if you want to learn more about it on your own. But I think that when we embrace that freedom of choice, that it really allows us to live a life full of greater joy and fulfillment. And we take responsibility for our own choices and empowering others. It's the way that we create a new world. And I'm so grateful to you, Michael, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of you because you make a choice each week to join us. And it's such a gift and such a blessing. So thank you. And until next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace out. Bye.